Well, soil, tell me a bit about how important it is that we know the kind of soil that we got and the condition that it's in.
Well, obviously it's vitally important, because if you know your soil type, then obviously that will have an effect on what the cropping you can do, but also knowing the fact if you've got very sandy soil, that's obviously going to be losing a lot of nutrients, a lot more than clay soil, which will hold on to its nutrients, and that obviously has an effect on how many nutrients we'll apply next year. So obviously soil testing, I would say, is actually fundamental. We need to know what the soil nutrient levels are and its pH levels, so that we can plan whether our fertiliser or our muck applications for the next coming year.
And in some cases, it's possible that we'd be looking to get rid of some elements of a fertiliser constituent, for example, is it?
Well, that's right. I mean, we can get to the situation where we have too much high levels of phosphate, for example, and we need to try and deplete that. But obviously, you know, applying muck, we're going to apply more phosphate, and we need to have that information before we can start to really plan our nutrients for the following season.
And for a livestock farmer who also does silage, for example, you know, his animals are treading on the soil, and then his machinery is going over the soil. How complicated is it just to have a good close look and decide what the condition of that soil is?
Well, it's not that complicated at all. I mean, the key thing is actually not just looking at the grass, but having a look underneath, having a look at the rooting zone. So a simple thing as a spade is very, very simple. You don't need anything more complicated than a simple shovel. You know, digging down even just 10, 12 inches, absolutely fine. You can have a look at the rooting zone and see what potential problems you may have.
Right. And should we be doing that? You know, when we are advised to sample, we're advised to do a W shape across the field, for example. Should that be the case in that
absolutely,
scenario?
Yeah. Walk the field as often as you can. I like to call it a VW, because then you actually go even further. You can actually, you know, make sure you're seeing the whole of the field.
And where should we turn then for the more detailed analyses?
The analysis, you can send them off to any laboratory, any soil service laboratory. ADAS, for example, will do some in England. But you can do it yourself. You know, you can buy some simple test kits and have a look yourself, and then consult the Bible, which is RB209. And I tell my students about RB209 a lot.
The revised version?
The revised version, indeed.
And so this is not an expensive process at all, and something that every farmer should be doing.
Yeah, there's no reason at all why you couldn't do a simple test yourself, and if you're noticing a problem, then maybe you want to get a trained agronomist, fax agronomist to come in, but you can have a good look yourself to give you a good idea of where you are.
Because if we carry on as we are, what are we doing?
We're mining the soil of our reserves. We're mining our soils. We need to think about all our resources. We need to think sustainability. We need to think about the future generation.